Kimberly, who has been in my life for probably, I don't know, around 4 years, I think. Time, it feels like a lot longer than 4 years.
Mhm.
I feel so blessed to have met her and have made, did before COVID, made being in her space a weekly practice just about. At Body Mantra, which is just this extraordinary opportunity to connect deeply and move freely in a very lovely space, both energetically and just with people that feel it's a beautiful tribe, just a beautiful tribe. So I'm so grateful for that. And Kimberly Jonas, who has lived in Boulder. I should have read your bio. Sorry.
It's all
Anyway,
right. We know each other so well
I
otherwise.
it's yeah, I'd love you to share maybe just a few things about yourself, because I don't have your bio in front of me for me to do it, and you would do it so much better.
Okay, that's a great handoff. Thank you. And it is true. It's how time flies, isn't it? That, especially in spiritual practice, I feel like it can have such a feeling of boundlessness and infinite, a feeling of the infinite. So even if I had only seen you 4 times instead of 4 years, it might still feel so expansive.
Hmm.
Uh, so
Mhm.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, yes, I've been in Boulder about coming up on 22 years.
Ooh,
Yeah. I hail from the Midwest. That's where I grew up.
uh-huh.
Um, but I left there about 22 years ago when I was in the corporate world actually, and I came to Boulder for corporate work, and I started to really dive into spiritual practice, which included yoga and meditation and finding dance again in my life. I had danced as a young person, and from that, it just evolved very quickly, where I started teaching new disciplines like soul motion and other movement practices like Nia, you may have heard of. I taught yoga and meditation, and then over time, about in 2008 is when I launched Body Mantra, which is my own body of work. And so I've been really steeped in not just my own spiritual practice, of course, but now leading and working with others since, gosh, it's been since 2000. And it's always evolving, but Body Mantra really is the core of my work. And then I also have a private practice, which you may or may not know, where I work one-on-one with people in terms of self-examination and embodiment and spiritually based self-awareness is what I would call it.
Mhm. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And what would you share? This isn't supposed to be like a plug for Body Mantra, but I feel like maybe it is, but I feel like um, it's. I'd love you to describe like what you feel the essence of that practice is.
Mm. Hmm. Well, my one of my taglines for it that I've used for a long time that I really still feel is the distillation is moving the body to go beyond the body.
Mm,
Moving the body to go beyond the body. So, sure, we can describe it as a movement practice, free form movement. There's music, there's instruction, not from a choreographic standpoint, but from a spiritual standpoint,
mhm,
giving people guideposts, I would say, things to consider in their own body, their own mind, how they might move in their lives, and then doing that through the body. So it's an embodiment practice. So we don't just use the mind in the practice, but it's mind body, that well used phrase.
mhm,
But the intention is that we're using the body as the vehicle to really connect to the soul level and understand how the soul wants to grow in relationship both to ourselves and to others, which is why it's a community-based practice.
Beautiful. That's
How's
just
that?
that was beautiful. As you were speaking, um, the thought that comes in was it came back to the purpose of this conversation. And in this time where I've been, so many, not I, but we have been speaking about creating this new earth, this new world, and how we are making new choices. How would you utilize this practice to hold that question? How?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful question. You know, to me, this is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, in this kind of practice, because really what I'm facilitating through body mantra and all that I do is responsiveness. This ability, I like to call it shape shifting, our ability to adapt and not stay in a rigid body or a rigid state of mind, but to be able to respond in the moment, to be very present and work with what's here. Even that's what we're doing now, just in this conversation, just listening and then responding from that place. So here we are in pandemic state where there are so many unknowns, so many new pieces that none of us have ever traversed in our lifetime. And to me, that brings us to the essence of a practice like this. How can I not get rigid in my body, not get rigid in my mind, and look for the places of flow, look for where I need to maybe oil the joints a little bit
Mhm.
so that I'm still moving rather than from fear or anxiety or doubt, terror, panic, the tough ones, that I'm not coming to a place where I'm no longer moving in my, again, physical system, but also my emotional and mental system.
Yeah. And then when someone, I mean, I love, I think it's so important to describe this because so many people do not operate from this experience of the inside out, from the body, of really, grasping. It's more from the mind and how everyone's trying to figure things out and maneuver and navigate and how do we do this in all of the fear that's there. um, when you bring someone into this place as a guide, what is there something that you can offer, maybe just for a couple of minutes, to even bring someone there, how you would go about doing that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sure. We can
Just
pick
love
one.
experience.
Well, we talked about the breath before we started the interview.
Yes.
Certainly, that's part of it. But I would say we could just even take a moment and I do what I call a body scan, and it doesn't even matter if you've never done this before. It's very basic, and it allows you to make contact with your whole body and to notice where maybe you aren't in contact or where you're feeling rigid. That's the idea. So we can do that if you feel like doing it would take maybe 3 minutes to do.
Sure. Can
Okay.
people be sitting? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think sitting is best because we're contacting the earth and we're not trying to hold ourselves up too much like standing.
Okay.
And lying down, you can kind of check out when you're lying down.
Yes.
Not everybody. I know you're good at lying down and totally checking in.
It's true.
But for people watching this, they could just right here in their seats watching. So let's just do that. So I would ask that you put your feet flat on the floor so that you feel the base of your feet. And if you're sitting in lotus position or legs crossed, that's fine. Feel your sit bones, feel the back of your legs. So whatever part of you is contacting the earth. And this right here is part of the practice for you to feel that part of your body that's connected to your chair or your floor, or maybe you're sitting outside. And you probably notice what naturally happens when we slow down and give this much space is you start to notice the breath. Maybe your breath was stunted or shallow. Maybe you weren't even aware that you were kind of holding your breath a little bit. I can feel how my breath was a little high in my body, so I'm just checking in and seeing if I can lengthen my breath. So for those of you that don't understand that terminology, the idea is simply to take longer to inhale and take longer to exhale. So it's like filling up a balloon fully, not halfway. We're really filling up a balloon. Full breaths all the way up into the lungs. And then when you exhale, hopefully you feel a little more contact with the earth. And then we'll do a basic body scan. I personally like to start at the head, so we'll just do that today. So you come up to your head and you notice in the whole head region. So your eyes are there, your ears, your jaw. Let's include the neck. Notice, do you have some tension here? You might have a headache. Your jaw might be gripping. Maybe you're grinding a little bit while you're sleeping because of what's happening in the world. And right now you're just noticing. You're not making yourself wrong. You're not trying to change it. And so then we progress. We move down to the shoulders and the arms and the chest. Notice. I'm noticing my shoulders were a little extra lifted, so I'm just dropping my shoulders. You might notice that your chest is a little tight. We all, I think, are protecting ourselves a little bit these days. So the heart gets protected in the chest. Good. And then we keep going. We come down to the belly. This is very commonplace where we hold stress, where there's maybe extra tightness. So we just bring some breath there and notice. Again, the key here is to not make anything wrong. And then we come down to the base. So however you're sitting, the hips, the legs, and the feet. We notice here, I have a little hitch in my left hip. I can feel some tightness. You might feel it in your knees or maybe your thighs. Maybe there's some extra work going on there. Maybe your toes feel kind of constricted. If they're in socks or shoes, maybe you want to whip those off. And so now the last piece, and we would take a lot longer if we were doing this to really work it, but my offering here is that you go to the place that felt the tightest. What felt the most constricted? Was it your jaw? Was it your shoulders, your belly, your knees, maybe your head? Go there and breathe more deeply and ask that your breath release the tension in that area. You don't have to effort here. You simply breathe more deeply and ask the breath to assist. So for me, it makes me in my shoulders, that's where I went. My breath allows my shoulders to soften and drop. I roll my shoulders and just naturally, because I'm bringing care and attention there, they're starting to drop and relax.
Mm.
So that would be the container for practice. We do a body scan, and hopefully you notice by doing this, especially if you don't do this often, that the body naturally slows down and the breath naturally gets bigger when we take time. That probably took about 5 minutes. And it's that simple. What if you did that every day to bring more calm to the body, which I believe then is what's tracking all of this collective energy that's happening in the pandemic space. Little touch of body mantra there.
Little touch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, it's amazing because just sitting for that 5 minutes, it actually felt like it just stretched. And the stretch felt like it was more of the space in me that got more spacious and in that relaxation place. And to then go forward in my day, in that space is such a different quality of energy than, being harried and being, you can't, there's a disconnect. There's such a disconnect that happens. So the power of connecting in and really getting clear about where you want to live from, where you want to be from, whether it's in your work, your relationships, whatever. It's such a powerful tool. It's
Mm-hmm.
so simple, but it's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be complicated.
Mm-mm. It doesn't, and the body really um, is so wise.
Mhm.
We were put in a physical form because there's wisdom there. There's something there to teach us,
Yes.
and until we have a moment of pain or something that doesn't heal quite as quickly as we like, we can kind of take that for granted. But in this environment, as you were just talking, I was feeling that sense of how maybe if we start our morning by reading the news and getting all worked up, I can feel how I immediately go, ugh.
Yes.
So if I take that few minutes to do the very opposite, which is drop my shoulders, come out of that little tight space of fear, as you say, then there's more space for me to receive what's happening in the
Receiving
world.
a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Make
Beautiful.
a choice. Do we choose the craze or do we choose the heart?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well said.
I love this is a quote. I'm going to pull something from my past. I used to work with Miguel Ruiz's teachings and Miguel, and one of the things he used to say was, um, "Do you want to?" How did he put it? I have to. Oh boy, it just like left automatically. Do you want to be afraid? Do you want to be happy and have love, or do you want to be stupid?
Direct, like Miguel.
Direct, very direct. What do you want to choose? The repeated way or, the different way, which we're having that opportunity as we have more space. We're being given more space. We're told to stay home. We're being told, stay home, stay home. A reminder, such a powerful reminder to come here and be here.
Mm-hmm.
And people are taking it in all different ways, of course, and that's a choice. How do you
Right.
be in it?
Right. And I would reflect because you've heard this even in our community since this began and we haven't gathered in person. We've heard some people say, I don't feel like I have more space.
Mhm.
People who are on the front lines, people who are parenting at home. And so there's also something here. I feel like there's a piece that wants to come in that's about how in that case where maybe people feel more taxed,
Yes,
more overwhelmed,
yes,
even more important than to find 5 minutes.
exactly. Because in that, look, I raised 6 kids.
Right.
That was not a small feat. It really was not. There was energy, there was chaos, there was everything, everything in my home all the time, right? And if I didn't find a space to start my day, I was gone. I couldn't, it's like I was pulled in every single direction. I could not, I couldn't find home.
Mhm.
And I think that's what really started my journey in wanting to support people in self-care, because I had to do it. I was being forced,
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
my earring fell on. I was being forced. And um, I think that intensity of energy, it does make you feel like you just want to do this. You just want to come in and you don't want, and where do you find it? So I used to share with people, okay, where's a corner that you can call your own? Nobody comes in this space. This is my space. Even if you lived in an apartment with someone else, that creating, and it could be your car.
Mhm.
Your car. It might not look like how you have a beautiful sanctuary, but it's a sanctuary that's here,
Mhm.
and it expands as you stay here. It will grow so that wherever you go, you have your home,
Mhm.
always here.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, of course, there's that phrase, wherever you go, there you are. So more than ever, uh, we're being asked to use our space differently, and I mean physical space as well as intangible space.
Yeah.
So there's the question of, yes, if you're in a small apartment or a small condo with, I'm thinking of someone who has 4 kids, uh, it's important to say, okay, well, here's my space, which is just a chair, and I have a candle or a mala or something that's precious, a scarf. You have a beautiful scarf on, that helps me to attend to myself.
Yes.
And then there's also the intangible space that we're talking about, which is then I create that space, and then all of a sudden I have more capacity to mother my children, father my children, be on the front lines, have it do this kind of thing that you're doing, which is, holding a group of people who are interested in having this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that really comes through is nature. That for me, with all the dance that I was doing, and I was doing dance 4 days a week, so it is a deep practice for me. Um, movement is. Um, what has really saved grace is nature.
Mm,
More of it. Even if I'm touching dirt, breathing fresh air, the elements, connecting with the elements in some form, having a candle or, whatever that is. um, I feel like nature is home. Nature is home.
mhm, mhm. Well, we've talked about this too, where nature exhibits and shows us, illustrates the great cycles of life, all the seasonal. Even if you live closer to the equator, there's still fluctuations. It shows a certain type of cycle, and here we are. A pandemic is showing us we're in a death birth cycle, right? We're in a kind of a spring-like, interesting, because here we are in northern hemisphere in spring. But the key there to me is that that is such a great force that we should be drawing on, which is what you're talking about, to say, okay, that look at how nature recreates herself. I think of all the fires that have happened in our state, but I know all over our country, and I'm thinking even of Australia and New Zealand. But think about how the earth recreates itself after a fire. And
Mhm.
so it's the same thing here. We burn and then we rebirth. So wouldn't it be natural that we go touch the dirt and get our feet in the sand and go to the top of a mountain and
Yes.
breathe that wisdom? through
because
that
she's
wisdom.
feeding us all the time. She
Mhm,
is feeding. It's definitely and
mhm,
it's a cycle of give and take.
mhm,
We give back as well. How are we giving back? How are we serving? How are we taking this self-care that, we're talking about, going in and calming down and coming back to a place of equanimity and heart? And then how does it naturally want to come back out and be of service?
mhm,
I had this, I was doing a meditation this morning, and I was holding this question, and what came through was that I feel like traveling all over the planet and sharing love, not from a pretty place, but sharing love, meaning it's it's like almost creating safety, or creating, there's something, it's authenticity, it's all of those things, that's truth that comes through, that it's all good, it's okay, it's we're it but you have to stay here and hold humanity in that place of gentleness and kindness and compassion through it all, through it all,
mhm,
even how painful, and the sorrow and the grieving, and still holding and trusting in that love,
mhm,
trusting in life in that way.
mhm. Right. I mean, it really is about what you're speaking about is presence. It's being present in our own experience and present with what's, well, as the saying goes, being present with what is,
Mm-hmm.
not what you wish,
Mm-hmm.
and asking for even the tough stuff to be the teacher. Um, and trusting, I love that word. Trust is, it can be a little question, right? Like, do I really trust? Do I really trust that this pandemic, that these unknown, unpredictable circumstances are here for good? Can I really trust that? And can I trust the pain? Can I trust the pain of loss, of death, of really not knowing where my next step is every single moment? And to me, that brings us back to the body, because if I ask those questions and I start hyperventilating, and I start shutting down or going into paralysis or becoming angry and pushing people away because I don't want to talk about it, that's all signs that I'm not yet embodying and allowing that material to kind of it's I always talk about it like compost. It's the stuff that comes in and it gets tilled over and becomes fertilizer for the great next window of opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, there is a lot the mind can do that can really put you into tailspin and going down that rabbit hole. That, I think because of the level of fear that's out there, and we're constantly bombarded with, in the news. It's something that has been a way for a long time. It's nothing new. Um, and yet how are we going to respond to it? And I just, this practice of going in is just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
In the midst of whatever is showing up,
Mm-hmm.
you go in for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would offer, when you say that, because I often have the voices in my head of the one person that might say, yeah, but you know what? I went inside and I just spun around in there because I was so freaked out. And so there's also a piece about community. And
Yes.
again, isn't this, it's such a time of paradox, because we're being asked to shelter in place or safer at home, whatever it is in your municipality. but there isn't social distancing. There's this idea of distance. So the question is, how do I find, I don't want to say find because my guess is they're right there, these resources, is how do I reach for the resources, the community that's already there, my family, my friends, tribe, whoever it is that can help you to do that exercise or maybe do it with you,
Yes.
so that the tendency to not self-police yourself and go into a state of freak out is, with love, like you say, monitored. You
Yes.
have someone there saying, let's do this together, because almost always, I believe, as I've witnessed people, almost always that creates a stronger field for everything to calm down and relax.
Yeah, it does a lot of things, actually.
Yeah, that was just one.
Yeah, all the Zoom that's been happening, because I've done dance on, with you on Saturdays. We're now doing a body mantra quick series, that's really beautiful because it's with familiars. It's with people that are familiar, and we already know the safe space there. So it's immediate. It's like immediate recognition that my body memory goes to. And the same is true for a meditation group that I sit with. We've known each other for many years, and we haven't been together until very recently now. And there's immediate recognition and feeling safe, um, to, it's okay to let it down, whatever is there, that there is the space to, give it voice, to not push it under the rug, to, feel it, to allow it without story, but to allow it to move through. And yeah, I notice, that's why I've gone to dance, is that container. We're there together. It's like saying you're not alone. You are not alone. We are here, and we are all here together. And it's a beautiful thing to, even if it's one person, because
Right.
it's one person that can hold that.
Right. And that's the key, is to remember that that's how it starts, is we find at least one thread, because for some people that will be it. That
Yes.
will be how they feel safe. And you, it's kind of an interesting word to try to unpack, is the concept of safety, because pandemic and everything that's been happening naturally, just it's a fact of the human body. We go into fight or flight because there's so much unknown material, and we aren't sure, should we, and sorry, I should say fight, flight, or freeze, because I know that always gets added. So, but there's that whole adrenaline response, and what should I do here? And so safety is about reducing that response in the body too. I want to bring it back to the body, because that whole hormonal, it's a hormonal response that keeps us elevated and kind of what's next, what's next. And if we have one person, 5 people, 20 people, it doesn't matter, but that connection that reminds us that we can, we are in safe space, we can let those hormones have a break every 24-hour cycle, then we're reducing stress response, then we're creating more space, then we're then able, hopefully, to be in this circumstance more effectively, and for the extended period of time that it's going on.
Yes. Yes. It's such a really powerful tool going in this body. I mean, we're human. We're meant to be in this body. We are an embodied being. um, yeah. Yes. Okay.
Mm.
Ah, well, I'm I'm just checking the time here to see where we are.
Yeah.
We have a few minutes left, and I would like you to maybe share the what you're offering beyond what you just offered, which was just such a gift. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I really feel that it's so important to talk about community. This is a community here that I'm extending out. I feel like it's not about me, it's about us. And we're here doing this together. We're here doing this together to usher in this new world and new earth that, wow, what an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to support you because
Mm-hmm.
I think you're amazing in your message and what you're sharing,
Mm-hmm.
what you can offer, what you would like to offer.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree. This is, everybody enters this kind of inquiry in a different way. And so I think it's wonderful that you are introducing and sharing different people and talking to different people with different ways in. Because this may speak to some people and it may not to others. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. Of course, body mantra, you've already spoken to that, and that's really the basis and foundation. There are two things I would offer. One is I do have a podcast called Body Mantra with Kimberly Jonas, and there, similar things. There's some meditations like what we just did in terms of how to work with your body and through your body. And then there's some reflections about some of the content that's coming up that we can all consider how to, as you say, do it differently, create the new, the creation station of grace. So that could feed some people. And I'll give you my website that you just go there and there's a podcast
Yes,
link.
we'll post everything.
Okay, great. And then the other thing which we talked about, which I just have one of these here. This is Faith. This is called. Let me do it the right way. Faith. As you know, I make essential oil blends, and these are diluted blends for daily ritual. And this happens to be the one that my partner and I use. So you can see we are slathering on the Faith. But basically, I blend these for use on the body. I apply them after shower, but you can also, like I just got some on me, and I did the scent for me because I've been using it a long time. I immediately go to my Faith body. But they're blends like presence and surrender and heart presence. So lots of different blends that can help us work tangibly. So you work with scent, you're putting something on your body. It's kind of like lighting a candle.
Yes.
And we'll do a discount once this video is going live. We'll put a discount up and you just go through my website. There's a little shopping section,
Awesome.
and if that feels helpful to people, we'll ship those on out to you.
I love that. Love that offer. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, do you ever make recommendations to people? Do you work with people, as a aromatherapist, sort of? That's what we used to call them anyway. I
Yeah,
actually did that
yeah, I believe it.
a long time ago. But do you do anything where you do make a recommendation or offer guidance?
Well, if you go to my site, the essential oil site, you'll see that I work with custom blending. But that's a little different where I'll actually sit with someone. I'm an intuitive as well, so I'll do an intuitive read and I'll help build a blend specifically for that person. So it's kind of like getting like an astrological reading or
Wonderful.
similar where I'm tapping into you specifically and working with something that will read to your body.
Oh, I love that. I love,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Well, what a great time with you. It feels so full.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, I'm so grateful that you joined me here today. And
thank you.
um, I look forward to more. We will, let's see, what's coming down the chute? Uncertainty. So we'll see what gets created in the creation station.
Love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Kimberly. And
Thank you.
just have a beautiful weekend, and take care of yourselves.
Mm.
Come home, stay here. Much love. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Okay. Thank you.